There are 5 reasons why I believe that Canadians will be going to the polls sometime in 2024. So let us take a look at what I believe to be the 5 reasons. The first reason is, of course, that there has never been, with the exception of one government in Canadian history, that has gone the full term, the full 4 years as a minority government. That was Mackenzie King in the 14th Parliament. But since then, the average lifespan of a minority government in Canada has been approximately 2 years. The Liberals are coming up on 3 years this coming September. And I don't think that they're going to risk boxing themselves in and having to call an election out of necessity sometime in their 4th year. Because the history of political parties to get themselves boxed in is not very good. And reason number 2, I believe that Trudeau actually is looking forward to this campaign to be able to stack up his carbon pricing program against Poilievre's pie-in-the-sky axe the tax campaign. On the one hand, the Liberal program is actually driving down emissions. Economists and climate change experts are all basically saying that the plan is actually working. And on top of that, it's not costing Canadians a nickel. There's 80% of Canadians are going to get back more in the carbon tax rebate than what they will actually spend on taxes throughout the year. Now, Poilievre, on the other hand, he's saying the opposite. He's saying it's going to drive up inflation and it's driving up the cost of housing, cost of groceries, all of which have been proven to be untrue. We get an opportunity to actually see what is his plan, what is the alternative, how does Poilievre intend to tackle climate change. So far, all he's told us is he wants to build nuclear power plants and he wants to build a $40 billion gas refinery in British Columbia so as he can ship dirty oil and dirty gas from Alberta, stick it into a pipe, transport it 700 miles across British Columbia to the coastline, put it into a tanker and send it off to China and India to be burned. What sort of a climate change plan is that? So I actually think that Trudeau is looking forward to having this debate because the facts are on his side. And we all know if you're in a debate and one side has got the facts and the other side has got smoke and mirrors, we know who wins that debate. And the third reason I believe Trudeau will pull the plug come September is we will just have gone through another summer of wildfires where Canadian forests from British Columbia to Manitoba to Quebec to Ontario and everywhere in between Alberta will be absolutely burning to the ground. We'll be covered in smog and smoke from wildfires where in previous years our forests have just burned up. And that is going to play into Trudeau's hands because he's going to be able to remind voters this is the reason why we got to have this price placed on carbon emissions, because we need to be able to do our part when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. And by the way, Canada is committed to the Paris Accord, where 190 nations around the world have essentially said we are going to lower greenhouse gas emissions by 25% below 2005 levels by the year 2030. There's no way that Poilievre's campaign could even come close to addressing any of those or achieving any of those goals. The fourth reason I believe there will be an election in 2024 is that the polls are actually turning around for the Liberals. Just recently, a Nanos poll has closed the gap by 8 percentage points.
Maybe there's a new trend. What do you think? It's possible. Since last August 2023, the Conservatives have been firmly in the driver's seat with a clear advantage. That advantage hit a peak at the beginning of March, 20 points. Now it's 12 points. So there has been some movement. The thing is that when the movement is between the Conservatives and the Liberals, it doesn't take very much to kind of narrow the gap a little bit. But check out the latest ballot tracking. You can see Conservatives at 38%, Liberals 26%, NDP 19%.
The last and final point is that the NDP are not benefiting by the great work that they did around the dental care and the pharmacare programs and anti-scab legislation and a host of other issues.
We've secured something really important, I'd say really historic for Canadians. We're really excited about this. We have legislation that clearly points to single payer. It references the Canada Health Act and the principles of the Canada Health Act, very much what we needed to get. So that's secured. In addition, we have a commitment to cover 2 classes of drugs, in a single payer model. So proof of concept, we're actually delivering. This is well and above what we had in our agreement. So this is something that's going to make a big difference in the lives of Canadians. The two classes of medication that are covered, contraceptives as well as diabetes medication.
All of that good stuff is they're not getting credit for it. And at the same time, Trudeau also will know that at some point the NDP are going to have to start turning the corner and attacking the Liberals to be able to differentiate themselves between the Liberals and the NDP. So I think with Trudeau calling an election sooner than what people expect, it kind of undercuts the NDP and takes the feet out from underneath them, won't give them an opportunity to gain some traction. And if those polls continue to change as they appear to be, then I think they will definitely pull the plug come Labor Day. So to wrap it up, you can expect that the Liberals will attack the NDP, no question about it, but they'll do it as well, dragging out the old bogeyman of strategic voting. There's other issues, of course, as well that I think that will play into this election, and that is Poilievre's got a strange bunch of supporters out there. It's a collection of the anti-vaxxers, all of the trucker convoy folks, and all those people that glammed onto that campaign, all the bigots and homophobes and the Nazis and wherever else. It's a real mixed bag of individuals.
Swastikas and Nazi flags were seen at the Freedom Convoy protest in Ottawa over the weekend. I spoke to one hate crime researcher Monday who says politicians at the local level need to do more to prevent these symbols of hate from being shown at protests.
Oftentimes these freedom rallies are more broadly speaking towards, a dissatisfaction with left-leaning governments, and in the context of Canada, a really strong anti-Trudeau sentiment, which a lot on the, far right side of the spectrum like to, tag along with.
While most demonstrators were at the nation's capital to protest vaccine border mandates and call for an end to public health measures, some did use images of swastikas in their messaging. Chowdhury believes politicians using tweets to condemn that segment of demonstrators is not a strong enough response.
I don't think it's going to look too good on Poilievre when all of these folks who will be branded as his supporters are out there trying to disrupt the democratic process and let an election unfold the way it should. Nothing wrong with having protesters, but quite a different matter when they start pushing and shoving and calling names and throwing missiles and stones and so on at people in the midst of an election. Doesn't look good on Poilievre nor on the people that are claiming to be his supporters. So with all of those factors put together, I think we're going to see an election come Labor Day or shortly thereafter Labor Day. And the last point I'll make is, at some point during this election, there's no doubt in my mind, it'll be timed such that there'll be a carbon tax check will be dropped into everybody's banking account in the middle of this election, just to remind people that in actual fact, they will also be giving up these rebates if they're going to go and elect Conservatives. So there you have it. By the way, you heard it here first. If that writ gets dropped around Labor Day or a little bit afterwards, you heard it first on Straight Talk with Sid Ryan.